Hello, you're very welcome to the NFL show here on the Under Center podcast. Dara and Rain joining you this evening. We are back after a slightly later start than normal this year. Adulting has been getting in the way. Some have been jet setting over to the land of the rising sun. Others have been signing a deal with the devil to agree to coach in the AFI off season. Rain, how have your recent travels been?
They've been excellent. Obviously, it was out in Japan, like you said, a phenomenal country, and yeah, it's a place I'd very much recommend.
Yeah, excellent. And not just yourself, also your brother, co-host on this show, Fionn,
Yeah,
has also decided he wants to go jet setting around to the other side of the world, going none other than to over to India, I believe, for a wedding. So as you can
yep.
see,
He's still
business
over
is
there, I
good.
believe, and
Is he still over
yeah,
there?
he is
Business
still
is
over there.
good
Yeah,
on the Under Center podcast side of things. If your last name is Malloy, it's very good, very good. The likes of us,
yeah. And
Mars and Sims.
let's not forget that Alex has been jet setting himself in the Badlands of Dundalk. So that's
Yeah,
always an interesting place to visit. I've been there once, scary place. Don't want to go back, but yeah, he's living his life out there.
yeah. Recent reports in Dundalk indicate that there has been a long-haired blonde man seen walking around in football gear, still celebrating a Harp Bowl victory with a trophy filled with harp. Cannot be confirmed if it is harp, but no, if we know who the suspect is, it's probably harp.
Indeed.
Right. That is a lot more AFI content than I actually thought was going to happen at this part of the show because we are at this end of the year. The AFI season is done. The NFL season is here. So we have gone from playing games to watching games. Our fancy football teams are set up. Our bets are set for the weekend. We've lost every matchup we can imagine the first 2 weeks. We've lost all the money we've bet the first 2 weeks, as it always happens, but we still come back every uh, week and watch it again and again and again. And I'll tell you what, actually, because I'm sure, like you, Rain, we were all worried at the beginning before this season started with the tragic news that Red Zone was going to contain commercials through its broadcast. And we got the you know, what was that? We got the party line sent out there by all the journalists that affiliate with the NFL, with all the shows affiliate with ESPN and the NFL. That this is not a bad thing. This is grand. The show is 7 hours. You're not even going to feel the ads. I think they said commercials will last. It was going to be 4 commercials of 15 seconds each, so a minute total in 7 hours. When you do put it in that way, it's not the worst thing in the world. But us on the other side of the pond in Europe have been free from the said commercials. So for us, it's still 7 hours of commercial free football. Starts every Sunday at 6 p.m. And I guess, there is a positive to having being on the other side of the Atlantic and starting watching football a little later. And I've just lost Ryan. He was so disappointed in the idea of having commercials in the in Red Zone that he was not willing to even answer the question. Let's see if I actually have him back here now. Are you back with me?
I don't know what happened there. I totally crashed out. It was something to do with Red
I
Zone. It
didn't.
started everything
I
fucking
didn't.
died. But yeah, look,
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't. I was going to say the industry plants have obviously gotten into the podcast because we are talking about commercials in Red Zone, and they don't like us saying anything bad about it, so decided to stop you from being negative. They cut your mic straight away. I can see.
yeah, they did. To be honest, I don't even know if I think you were saying that the commercials maybe don't show in Europe. Is that correct? I was
Uh-uh.
watching the American stream of it anyway. being a North Dublin pirate, I was watching the American stream and I didn't even fucking notice the commercials. So yeah, I'm not too bummed about it.
Okay, that's fair enough. Fair enough. I guess. Well, you've had a sort of interesting time of watching NFL with being the Panthers fan. Obviously, week one you've had that long delay between quarters in the Jaguars game due to the lightning issues, and then obviously you're in the late window. So you've come to my side of things, being a Seahawks fan, that I have to wait till the late window normally until I get to watch the Seahawks. Not this week though; it was the early window. But yeah, so you've had to make do with watching a lot of Red Zone probably for most of the time. Or would you actually be Red Zone all day, or would you just watch Panthers and then when the Panthers game is over, flip over to Red Zone?
Yeah, if the Panthers game is on in the early window, I'll always watch the Panthers game, unless it's a complete blowout very early on. So that's pretty often, to be honest. But yeah, even then, after the early window kind of finishes, I find Red Zone to be a little bit frustrating because there's only like 3 games going on. You get a lot of nonsense in there. I
Yeah.
prefer to just sit down and watch one game if there's only a small slate of games on in that second window. So yeah, that's the way I would do it.
Yeah. Well, look, tell me this then, Rin. We're 2 weeks in. What have you made of the first 2 weeks of this 2025 NFL season? More in general, we'll get into more specific topics later on in the show, but as a general sort of throwing your eye over everything, how have you found the first 2 weeks?
It's been incredibly interesting. Some results that I kind of had a little bit of a hot take in terms of moving into the season that have panned out. Other ones that have been completely unexpected. It seems like every year at the start of the season, we talk about injuries and surprise injuries to big players, and we're seeing that happen again in the first 2 weeks of this season. It's such a shame, but then again, it's part of the game. I don't know how we can alleviate that.
Yeah. Well, I think, and we didn't get to do any shows, obviously, in the preseason leading up to it, but it's kind of fast becoming this preseasons in the NFL. It's more of a who is the team that is luckiest coming out of preseason in terms of who has the least amount of injuries, or whatever injuries do happen to them, it's not to the important players that will keep them out for a long period of time.
Right, exactly. It seems to be a little bit of a roulette at the moment. It feels like it's more than it has been in the past, but I presume that's just recency bias in our own head because, yeah, they're not doing anything different than what they have done for the last 25 years. So, yeah, it's just been interesting to see, though.
Yeah, it is, and maybe it's the level of intensity of practices we see. We've seen the emergence or the commonality of joint practices between teams, and whether it's a practice or a game, you're going against guys and that you will be fighting it out for a championship with. You hope at some point in the season. So if there's a chance for you to get a sly dig here or a little extra few seconds of a stamp here or there, you know, human nature will obviously dictate that you will probably take that chance.
Yeah, it's a great point. The joint practices now seem to be the more intense affairs than the preseason games themselves. The preseason games seem to be a bit of a procession and maybe a chance for some of the bubble players to put some tape on some tape down. So yeah, it's a very very good point.
Yeah, but we'll get out of the sort of broader things, and I wanted to see what you've learned in the first 2 weeks. Now, for me personally, I've learned something interesting. This was only last week. I was made aware that there's different types of turf toe that we found out this past weekend because obviously quarterback for the Bengals, Joe Burrow, has a grade 3 turf toe injury which requires surgery and is a 3-month absence. When does it go from turf toe to broken toe, though? Like, isn't that just a broken toe? If you have to have surgery to repair it, and you're going to be out for like, I'd surely just call it a broken toe.
Yeah, I had to do some digging into this. I didn't really know what turf toe was. You hear it every single year in the NFL, and generally, wide receivers play through it. They kind of get a little a cast put on the toe, and then they play through the injury. Joe Burrow doesn't seem to be able to do that because his is a grade 3, whatever that means. But I looked into it. Apparently,
That
it's
that
just
grade three,
a hyperextended toe. So
yeah,
there's
that
no
grade
bone
three.
break there. It's just yeah. The grade 3 seems to be the bad one. But yeah, so like it's a hyperextended toe. It causes a lot of inflammation around the joint area by all accounts. But yeah, it's a surprise to see it be as serious as it is for Joe Burrow.
So you're telling me right now that Joe Burrow is being a teeny weeny baby?
A little bitch. Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much.
yeah, yeah.
Well, he's not
That's just
beating the injury prone allegations, that's for sure.
that's your new segment now for the season is Rain's little bitch of the week. This week it's Joe Burrow. Next week we're going to find out who it is and see now for sure.
Yeah.
Uh, we've actually, to be fair, 2 weeks in, we've gotten a few QB injuries so far now as well. Jaden Daniels is struggling with an injury that he may miss this week because of. Brock Purdy obviously has his own turf toe issue that he has to deal with, but his is only a 3-week issue, not a 3-month issue. So, he didn't hyperextend it enough. He's not meeting that grade to reach little bitch territory. And you have JJ McCarthy, McCarthy, who's got a high ankle sprain, which is interesting because it may stop him from playing in the Dublin game next week as well. So, for everyone that thought it would be, the past and the future of the NFL going up against each other, it's going to be the past and Carson Wentz.
I mean, we've seen Carson Wentz put on some incredible performances in international games. I recall the Bengals and the Commanders, or the Redskins at the time, going toe to toe in a game that finished something like 36-36, went to overtime, finished
Toe
in a
to
draw.
toe.
So
Toe
yeah,
to
look, he has
toe.
the caliber there. Didn't even realize I said it. But yeah, look, the JJ McCarthy one is so strange to me because I had to go back and look at the tapes again. I was like, oh, I thought JJ McCarthy finished that game. And he did. He was out there scrambling around, throwing passes until the very last snap. And yeah, somehow now he has a high ankle sprain that's going to keep him out for a few weeks. It was a strange one.
Yeah. What have you learned in the first 2 weeks of the season?
Ooh, I think my main takeaway is that the Kansas City Chiefs are suffering from a bit of a Super Bowl hangover. This is the first time that they've gone 0-2 in the Mahomes era. I believe you'll recall right after the Super Bowl, I did mention that I think that the Chiefs are going to take a step backwards this year. And I mentioned as well that the Chargers may take a step forward and make that division very, very tough for them. That seems to be what has panned out so far in that division. Now, I am a little bit disappointed about the Raiders. I thought the addition of Ashton Genty in that offense was going to really, really kick the team forward. And I thought Geno Smith, although not a superstar QB, was going to be serviceable enough to make that Raiders team a viable playoff contender. But really, they showed nothing this weekend. I think it's mainly down to that O line. To be honest, the O line seems to not be able to create space for Genty. Geno Smith seems to be under a lot of pressure, and yeah, it's a tough one.
Mm-hmm. We saw Tom Brady in the coach's box in that game last night. That's got to be. Now, if it was anyone else but a senior coach like Pete Carroll, I would think that's very undermining. But would you think if you're even a Geno or even if you're an Ashton Genty, as a rookie, that Tom Brady is in the coach's box looking at you and he's a part of the ownership that, you know, there's a little more pressure to perform.
Yeah, I mean it's certainly a possibility. It seems a bit odd to me, to be honest, that he's even anywhere near that coaching team. It feels like a little bit of a conflict of interest with his massive contract that he has with Fox at the moment. If I was a coach amongst that kind of coaching staff, I would be very reluctant to let Tom Brady anywhere near me. I mean, I know he's a minority owner of the Raiders, but he also has his bread buttered by Fox Entertainment in terms of his ability to bring knowledge to the game, and I would be very wary that he might misappropriate some of that knowledge because, like I said, that contract that he has with Fox is huge.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, there has to be with the league made sure last year he couldn't get involved. This year, obviously, they're lightening the restrictions because he wouldn't be in there if he wasn't allowed, which I find interesting. Also, like if you're one of the coaches, or not even the coordinators, one of the other coaches, a positional coach or something, even if you're QB's coach and you have Tom Brady sitting there beside you, you're kind of like, dude, can you just let me do my job? And you know, even you may not say anything, but him sitting in the coach's box beside you, or maybe even worse, behind you, you're kind of like, yeah, I'm not going to get to do my job here.
Yeah, no, and it's got to put extra pressure on you as well, right? Like, there's no, regardless of how good of a quarterback's coach you are, you do not have the experience or knowledge that Tom Brady has in relation to quarterbacking in the NFL. So, yeah, it does put a little bit of extra pressure on, but it seems to be the done thing now that ownership gets involved with the coaching staff. We've seen it at the Colts as well. Jim Irsay's daughter getting involved with a headset and a play call sheet down on the sideline during games.
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it? That's a little weird. She says she wants to be involved in terms of like listening and hearing about what's going on, and you can respect that to a certain extent. But I'm sure you could get a headset up to you to the booth. I don't think you need to be on the sideline for the whole game. But hey, look, listen. Jim Irsay was a quirky character and did strange things. You wouldn't expect anything less from his family as well.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, just one thing on that. I don't know if you've ever had like an over eager boss at any stage, like a manager who kind of sits behind your shoulder and watches your every move. It can be a little bit disconcerting. So if I were her, I'd be taking a little bit of a step back, bring that headset up to a nice, comfy, plush room somewhere and just stay out of it for the time being. But hey, look, it seems to be working at the moment because the Colts are
Yeah.
2-0 with Daniel Jones looking like a serviceable quarterback.
Hey, Indiana Jones. Let's get the name right here now. It's no longer Daniel Jones.
What a name and what a marketing opportunity.
He definitely, if he's not selling hats or jackets or something like that with the Colts logo and like his name on the side, I'm sorry, he's got to get a new PR person.
100%.
Yeah. What you make of the whole thing in the Steelers Seahawks game the weekend? The touchdown from the kickoff that rookie Caleb Johnson let go through his hands and didn't go after it in the end, resulting in a touchdown. So, for those that aren't aware and didn't see it, so Seattle had just kicked a field goal to go 17-14 up. They kick off the ball as normal. With these new kickoff rules, no one can move or whatever unless you're one of the two receivers on the kickoff. And I think the landing zone is the 15-yard backwards, the 15-yard to the goal line. I think that's the landing zone the ball has to land to drop in. But what happens, or is it the 10-yard line? Might be a 10-yard. But so Caleb Johnson looks like he's going to catch it, goes through his hands. Now, I still maintain that actually touched him, so I think it wouldn't have mattered either way. Um, and then rolls into the end zone. He leaves it as if like, oh, it's in the end zone, it's a dead ball. But as per the rules, someone has to recover it. So then George Halani covers the ball. That's a touchdown. And Caleb Johnson and the Steelers are looking at each other and like, what the hell just happened?
Very, very strange one, to be honest. But it seems like people were talking about the new kickoff as being the issue that, like, they weren't aware. But I'm pretty sure, if a ball lands inbounds, even from the kickoffs previously, if a ball lands inbounds and rolls into the end zone, it's not an automatic touchback. The ball has to be downed or covered in the end zone, going back to the start of the NFL. So it's a bit of a strange one that this kind of happened, and everybody on the Steelers side kind of had the same reaction. They just started walking to the sideline when that ball bounced over his head. Fair play to the Seahawks for being kind of on the ball and realizing it is a live football and getting down there and scoring that touchdown, because it really helped them out in what ended up being quite a tight game.
Yeah. Moving on to some of the other topics. Yeah. I want to know if there's any, well, first of all, a team that has worried you this year and a team that has surprised you or is making you excited for this year. For me, the team that I'm worried about is the Texans. 0-2 to start the season, have not scored anywhere near. I think there was, what was it, 20-19 last night they lost, and it was 14-9 that they lost week one against the Rams. So not exactly putting up numbers on offense. And, there was some criticism for the offense last year, and a lot of it was cast aside in terms of, oh, it's the sophomore season of CJ Stroud. He's just going to struggle a little bit, come down from the highs of the season before. Now, stats wise, he actually didn't really drop too much. I think he had 4,100 yards last year, or his rookie year. Went down to 3,700 last year, so not a big drop. He went down in touchdowns by 3. He went up in interceptions by 5. You can negate that. That's not a huge difference. But, the OC Bobby Slowick lost his job at the end of last season because of it. Because of, I guess, the perceived sort of, downward turn that the offense took. And they still continue to struggle this year. And, defenses keep you in a game. They do, but you cannot guarantee the defense to be on form for every single game. There are games that the defense won't perform in, and it will need, I should say, the offense to perform. But they just seem to be a little sluggish in my eyes so far.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you there. They have been underwhelming, to say the least. Now, that Bucks team that they lost against this week, I actually are one of the honorable mentions for me in terms of teams who are performing well this year. Have surprised me. I didn't see them add anybody huge to their roster this year. I know they kept hold of all of the main components of that offense so far, but they've impressed me thus far. But yeah, like you said, you expect to see, with all of these, big flashy names on the Texans side of the football, you expect to see them put up more than 19 points in a game, and it's just not something that we've seen so far. So it is tough because that scheme has been in place now for 3 years. They should be really hitting the ground running at this stage, and they just haven't. So I'm completely on board with your choice for a team that's underwhelmed you this year. My own choice for a team that's underwhelmed me this year has been the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins, for me, have just been the most underwhelming team of the season so far. I mean, that first game that they played in was horrendous, absolutely awful. And a lot of people talked about the offense and the struggles that they had. The one that concerned me the most was, in fact, the defense. They've added some pieces to that defense this year. That front four should be dominant. They've tacked on Matthew Judon to that already very decent defensive line, Chop Robinson in the middle of the field. And they could not get pressure whatsoever on that Colts side. Jonathan Taylor had an excellent day. Daniel Jones had days to dance around in the pocket and find the open receiver. And then the same thing happened again this week when they played against the Patriots. The Patriots do not have a rip-roaring offense, but they managed to put up 33 points against a unit that is meant to be a decent defensive unit. So the Miami Dolphins for me are the most concerning team in the league.
Yeah, who is going to leave the Dolphins first? Tyreek Hill or Mike McDaniel?
I don't think Mike McDaniel is going to leave. If he leaves, he's going to be forced
You know
out.
what I mean.
But
Yeah,
Tyreek Hill
first
seems to
out
be
the door.
very, very frustrated at the moment. Not he's not on the same page as Tua at the moment. They seem to be struggling. So look, I think that it's a very, very real possibility that Tua goes and tries and find himself a roster spot on a championship contender this season before the trade deadline.
I'd say he'd jump at a chance to go back to Kansas. I think that'd be his ideal landing spot.
I think he would.
Yeah. Right. Team that has surprised you. For me, I'm going to go with the Chargers. Chargers for me are the team that have surprised me. They obviously beat the Chiefs in week 1 in Brazil very handily as well. I don't think they were ever really in trouble against the Chiefs, and then obviously doing the business against the Raiders, and which is massive at the start of the season to have 2 division wins under your belt already. Is absolutely massive. Justin Herbert's looking great. The rushing attack, it can be better, needs to be tweaked a little bit, but even getting a 2 now of Quentin Johnson, having Keenan Allen back is a huge advantage too. And that defense picking off Geno 3 times last night as well. They're getting home, they're putting quarterbacks under pressure and causing mistakes. And we've seen this from Chargers teams before, where they've been starting like like a. No, I'm not going to say it. Actually, that would not be. It'd be poor time to say that, but they start off so well and so fast, but they've not been able to continue that run throughout the end of the season. So it's going to, when we get into the second half, and bodies are getting worn down a little bit, we'll have to see if they can continue that momentum. But I'm just having a quick look here at their schedule now for the next few games. They have another divisional game this weekend at home to the Broncos, their actual first home game. I know the Chiefs game was technically a home game, but obviously it was in Brazil. So they're back in LA. Then you've got 2 NFC East teams, the Giants and the Commanders. The Giants obviously starting on 2. The Commanders haven't looked like the world beaters that they did last year. If Jane Daniels is still struggling with an injury as well, they have the Dolphins we've just talked about. Then they have a game against the Colts. We'll see if the Daniel Jones effects wears off at that stage. And then you have the Vikings with JJ McCarthy, the Titans with Cam Ward, the Steelers. By that stage, Aaron Rodgers will probably have given out to every single teammate he has and walked off. And then you go to the Jaguars with a struggling Trevor Lawrence and receiving core. Then you're back against the Chargers, against the Eagles, and then at the Chiefs. The schedule is kind. The schedule really is kind to them, and they can really go on a run here if they can keep people fit, and if they can just tweak that running game a little bit, sort of, get Omarion Hampton running like he was in college. He's obviously, there's going to be nerves and stuff coming into it. Looks like Najee Harris can see again after his off-season firework activities. So, the Chargers have a chance to do something this year if they can stay fit, stay healthy, and continue at the same level of performance they've had so far.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I 100% agree with you. Justin Herbert is putting in like a pretty decent performance this year. He's probably going to land himself in MVP conversation if he keeps going this way. Obviously, the other two main contenders there in Josh Allen and Jackson have started off pretty hot as well. But the Chargers team do look excellent, and like you said, that schedule for them is looking pretty nice. That they might be able to run that table and kind of stick it out at the top of their division there, which is going to obviously be a relatively tough one this season, with the Broncos looking fairly decent, and obviously the Chiefs are perennial contenders. So look, I think it's a great shout. The ones for me, I do have an honorable mention before I move on to my actual surprise package for this season. But my honorable mention is going to be the LA Rams. I think they have played excellently. The Panthers are 0-2, so how could they be exceeding expectations? They are exactly fulfilling my expectations. The Rams this season have had an excellent run on the offensive side of the ball. Matt Stafford, considering he was hiding away, pretending not to be injured for the entirety of the offseason, has come out and looked excellent. That connection that he has with Davante Adams at the moment is phenomenal. So that's my honorable mention. But my true pick for this one is going to be the Green Bay Packers. I think the Green Bay Packers have looked very, very strong in both games, particularly that first game against the Detroit Lions. Everybody was expecting the Detroit Lions to be kind of that main Super Bowl contender coming out of the NFC this season, behind maybe the Eagles again. So to have put them away as handily as they did was very impressive to me. And they're doing all of this while the first wide receiver who they've drafted in the first round in the common draft era is throwing his toys out of the pram. So very, very impressive to me. And the addition, obviously, of Micah Parsons has been a huge boost to that defense that has probably in the past struggled to get a decent pass rush going. So it's looking like they've found that missing piece now. And I think they're going to be real contenders moving forward.
Yeah, and considering that Micah Parsons isn't 100% fully up to speed yet, and I think he's just down as a specialist, like third down rusher at the moment until he gets more comfortable with the scheme. And I think obviously he's dealing with a bit of a back issue as well, so they have to manage that. So when he's fully integrated and when he's going, when he's in 3-4 down territory with the team, that's going to be a scary defense, like you mentioned, with him on one side, Sean Gary on the other. That is going to be formidable. I'm just thankful the Seahawks don't have to play them in the regular season. Maybe in the playoffs. But that's a great show on.
Yeah, who knows? The Seahawks have started pretty well this season. Give them their dues.
Yeah, they did. They gave away sort of game one against the 49ers. That 49ers team was there for the taking, but they just couldn't execute on offense and on defense. Reek Woolen decided to have the two worst snaps of his career back to back, which resulted in them losing the game. So, which wasn't great, but the performance, especially by the offense against the Steelers in the second half, was so much better. First half, they could have struggled with some stupid play calling that needed to be adjusted. It was the defense. I still think that defense is going to be a top 5 defense by the end of the season. Their defensive line, despite, if you don't consider Leonard Williams, a star player. Um, the not having a star player on that defensive line, but still causing both San Francisco and Pittsburgh serious issues. Their offensive line serious issues in that game. It's been good, and they have a chance now to really build some momentum with the game this weekend, where they play at home against the Saints, which we'll see. But knowing how Seahawks things have been the last few years, they will find a way to mess it up because they always do. But we've talked about my team. Let's talk about the Panthers a little bit, because the Panthers on Sunday looked dead and buried, 27-9 down. At one stage to the Cardinals, they brought it back. They had a touchdown late in the fourth quarter to bring it back to within one score. They recovered the onside kick, and they had every refereeing decision possible to keep their drive going. And in the end, they just couldn't score to get the win that they would have loved in the end. But your sort of thoughts on how things have been going these first 2 weeks for the Carolina Panthers?
I have been very underwhelmed. Week one, uh, Bryce Young looked like a shadow of what he did in the beginning or in the end of last season, which was a shame. I had big expectations for him coming into this season, and he started out the game against the Cardinals as well, looking very, very shaky. Now, a lot of people within the Panthers media are giving him credit for kind of bouncing back and nearly leading that comeback. But my criticism is that you can't really get yourself in that position to begin with. Having two turnovers before Kyler Murray even touches the football is not a position that you want to be in. It's not a position that you can be in and win football games. For them to have come back in that game would have been an absolute miracle. So yeah, it's been a tough watch so far in the first 2 weeks of the season. They did look abysmal versus the Jaguars, and not so great either. Certainly in that first half versus the Cardinals. The one that I really want to talk about is though Xavier Legette. He seems to be just a complete bust at this stage. I don't know if you saw the stat line for him in the game against the Cardinals, Sarah, but he had 8 targets for 1 catch and -2 yards. He's also been going a little bit viral recently for when they were in a 2-minute drill. He was slowly walking his way back to the line of scrimmage. The intensity just doesn't seem to be there from a guy who was drafted really highly and highly touted by the Carolina Panthers, although not very many other people were highly touting him, but he was highly touted by that scouting staff in the Carolina Panthers, and he has done nothing but disappoint so far. He showed flashes last season, but too many big drops in big games, and he just doesn't look to have made any progression so far this season.
Yeah, it is tough. On the plus side, though, 2 games in, your most recent high draft pick from the wide receiver position, Ted McMillan, has looked fantastic and looks right at home in the NFL, and uncovering the gem that we all knew was there, but no team seemed to want to take a chance on him. But it seems to be working out quite well right now. It's Hunter Renfrow. So you've gone from losing probably, your veteran producing wide receiver in Adam Thielen going back to the Vikings. You've gotten Hunter Renfrow, who's doing that. You've got now Ted McMillan, who's 100 yards alone just in the game at the weekend, just from 6 receptions. So it's not all doom and gloom. You've got pieces there on offense for sure, especially with Chuba Hubbard there in the backfield as well, who has proven the last few years he's a fantastic runner. You've gotten 2 away games done. You've got the Falcons now in a divisional game at home this weekend. The Falcons, despite winning at the weekend, they did win at the weekend, didn't they? Yes, they did. Wasn't a great win against the Vikings. It seemed to be quite poor and laborious, but they haven't looked great. So there's a chance they're on my surprise watch for this week / do not even touch if you're in a last man standing league sort of suggestion.
Mm. Yeah, no, I think I was being a little bit overly pessimistic. Like there are some positives to gain from the last 2 weeks, like you said, as well. Even though we are losing our center in Austin Corbett and our guard in Robert Hunt to IR this week, we are getting back our left tackle, which we have sorely missed in Ike Ekwonu. We also have some guys to come back on the outside in Jimmy Horn, who looked excellent during the preseason, and as well Jalen Coker, who had an excellent season last season. So there are some weapons that are still there, not quite implemented into that offense. So look, in that game against the Cardinals, there were sparks on that offensive side of the ball. I think Bryce Young had his career best percent or completions, career best passing yards, and he had 3 touchdowns, which is tied best in his career. So yeah, look, there are some positives, and yeah, this is a great opportunity in this next week to kind of take advantage of those kind of upward swing offense, and yeah, really take advantage of a struggling Falcons defense.
Because it's definitely their second spot, I would say. I don't think anyone's going to take the Bucks from winning the division this year unless it takes a massive collapse. But they're second place in that division, which could be a playoff spot if other divisions struggle as well. So there's definitely still all to play for. So we'll see with that with the Panthers. I like Dave Canales as a head coach. I liked him as a quarterbacks coach in Seattle. I liked him as an OC in Tampa Bay, and I'm liking him as a head coach so far over in Carolina. So let's see what happens there. I guess. Do we have anything else we want to bring up before we wrap up? I don't think. I haven't got anything. Have you got anything? He has nothing because he's left. I give him an inch and he takes a mile. I said he could have left. We could wrap this up if he has nothing else to talk about. He's coming back. He's coming back. Hold on. Let's see if we get him back. There, he's back again. He's back again. I was just saying, Rain, we could finish up the show here now because we've covered maybe the majority of topics. And you just left.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's those NFL, media, I don't know, the puppeteers getting their little fingers involved in our podcast again. Because I was going to mention before we finish that the tush push should be banned. It should really be banned 7 times versus the Chiefs, less than 100 yards passing in a game and still win it. There was false starts on maybe 4 or 5 of those, and the formation, I keep going back to it, is 100% illegal because the center is offside and the 2 guards are in the neutral zone on every play. But I know that's the gripe that everybody has about the play, but I just needed to get it said on the podcast.
Well, look, the center thing, I can't really agree with you on that. I'm gonna say it could be down to his size because we all have that issue. I have that issue at center. I can't put my hand all the way out here and not go ahead. Like my hand's not that long, Rain. The ball, there's going to be a part of me that could look a little offside. It happens.
Yeah, there's a difference in the way that he lines up as a regular snap versus the tush push snap. He has it lined up at shoulder level. He's got his whole head in front of the ball. That's offside for me.
Yeah. So it's not that the tush push should be banned. The tush push should just be refereed better. Because they had no issue calling Chris Jones offsides or a neutral zone infraction when he had his hand in line with the ball and not behind the ball. So you just want to see consistency in terms of the refereeing, maybe not so much that the actual play itself should be banned.
No, I think that's probably a better assessment than my outrageous ban the play kind of argument. I think just enforce it. That's all that needs. They seem to be enforcing it on the defensive side of the ball, so let's start enforcing it on the offensive side.
Hey, look, I'm all for, losing the head and calling for stuff to be banned and not to be calm like me, because it makes good content for the social. So, but you gotta give me something back here. Have you got? No, you're gone. Or you're still there. But we're gonna wrap this up because your modem is clearly a cracker at the moment and it's falling apart. So we are gonna call it a day here. It's been good talking NFL for the first time in what, 10 months, 9 months. So good, and I have a nice break now. We're going to be back every week chatting NFL. Hopefully, Reen's modem comes back to the year 2025 by next week's show. Hopefully, we'll have some of the other lads back as well. But before we go, make sure if you haven't already, you're following us on the socials at UnderCenterPod on Instagram and Twitter, also on TikTok too. Of course, next week, this weekend, week 3, week 4 of the NFL season, huge week, and we all know why. The historic game in Dublin in Croke Park will be happening the 28th of September. Vikings, Steelers. We're all looking forward to it. We cannot wait. We'll have plenty of content for that, looking ahead to that game as well. And we cannot wait for that. So that is going to be looking ahead to it next week for sure. But for this edition of the NFL show, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you again next week. And until then, stay safe and we'll see you soon.